Rob here at etrailer.com, and today we're going to be taking a look at the CURT Class 3 Custom Fit Trailer Hitch Receiver on our 2019 Jeep Cherokee. Now this is what our hitch is going to look like once we have it installed. It's going to have a really clean factory appearance because the cross tube is going to be completely hidden behind the bumper, and the only thing we're going to see is that receiver tube sticking out. Now it is a Class 3, which means it's going to give us that 2-inch by 2-inch receiver tube opening and have a really wide variety of options when it comes to accessories. We can put a ball mount in here, tow a trailer, or if we need to make some room on the inside of our Jeep, we can put a cargo carrier in here, or if we want to hit the trails, we could put a bike rack in there and take our bikes with us. But however we're going to be using our hitch, all of our accessories are going to mount through the hitch pin hole here on the side. And the hitch is going to accept a standard 5/8 pin and clip. Now these are not included with the kit, but you can pick them up here at etrailer.com along with some locking devices to make sure your accessories are secure. And if we are towing a trailer, obviously we need a spot to hook our safety chains. And we have a loop style here welded to the bottom of the receiver tube. You can see we got plenty of room to get most size hooks on or off. Now if you're looking for a hitch, regardless if you're going to be using it for towing or recreational purposes like a bike rack, you want to make sure that it's up to the task. So as far as the weight ratings go, our hitch is going to have a 675-pound tongue weight. That's going to be the maximum downward force at the end of the receiver tube. And to put that in perspective, that's going to be plenty enough to really maximize the carrying capacity of those really large cargo carriers or carrying a really large bike rack with several bikes on it, maybe even up to 4 or 5 bikes. Now as far as the gross trailer weight rating goes, our hitch is going to have a 4,500-pound rating. That's how much it can pull, but that does include the trailer and the load we have on it. The hitch is designed to work with weight distribution systems as well. That's going to bump the tongue weight up to 750 pounds and the gross trailer weight rating up to 5,500 pounds. But you do want to double check your Cherokee's owner's manual because you don't want to exceed the manufacturer's recommended weight. Now what I really like about our CURT hitch here opposed to the other ones that are available, it does have a really nice clean appearance. The cross tube's hidden behind the bumper, and we're not going to have to do any kind of cutting or drilling in order to get it installed. The draw tight is going to have us cut a little bit on the bottom of our fascia here, and the other CURT that's available is going to have the cross tube below the bumper. So I really think this is the best of both worlds. It's going to have a nice clean appearance, but it's also going to be relatively easy to install. I'd like to give you a few measurements, and these are going to help you when you're looking for accessories for your new hitch, like a ball mount, a bike rack, or even a cargo carrier. From the center of the hitch pin hole to the outermost edge of the bumper is right about 5.5 inches. That measurement is going to help you out when you're looking at folding accessories to make sure you have enough room and they're not going to come in contact with the rear bumper. And from the ground to the inside top edge of the receiver tube opening is right about 13 inches. Now that measurement is going to help you when you're looking for a ball mount to find the appropriate rise or drop to match up to your trailer. But also at that height I would recommend a bike rack or a cargo carrier that has a raised shank. That way we get a little bit more ground clearance out of it. But now that we've seen what our hitch looks like and gone over some of the features, let's get it installed together. To begin your installation, you want to come to the back of your Jeep, and we need to lower our exhaust down. But if we look at our exhaust tips at the end of the muffler here, we're going to see that the pipe actually goes into this tip, so it's not going to allow it to come down. So we're going to follow our muffler and the piping forward towards the front of our vehicle. And we'll see we're going to have this clamp here just forward of that muffler right at the rear axle. We're going to need to disconnect this so we can actually pull the muffler assembly out, but we want to make sure that our exhaust is supported before we do that. So I'm going to take a support strap and I'm going to run it on the forward section of the exhaust so this part doesn't hang down once we remove the back section. So you just want to find a solid point to connect it to. I'm actually going to go towards the back and across. That way I know it's going to be underneath this section of the pipe. Now if we move back towards the muffler, on each side we're going to have a hanger that's holding it in place and it's bolted to the bottom of the frame. I'm going to grab a 13mm socket and pull both those bolts out. And we're going to have 2 on each side, so we'll pull out the other side as well. Now your muffler will drop down, but again it's going to stop on those tips at the back of the bumper. So we're going to come to this clamp here, and with a 15mm socket we're going to loosen up that nut that's on top. Now Now when you loosen this up, you don't need to fully remove that nut. You just want it to open up some. And if you need to, you can take a screwdriver or something, just kind of open up that clamp a bit, make it a little bit easier to move, kind of break it free from the pipe itself. Now back at this joint here, it will be extremely tight, so it'll help if you have somebody at the back of the muffler supporting it, kind of wiggling it back and forth, and you can tap it, but make sure to use a rubber mallet. Now once you have enough of it coming out, you do want to hold on to it because that back end is going to drop down. So we'll make sure that it's not going to fall on us, and we'll wiggle the pipe until we can get it to all come out. And once we have it all out and disconnected, we're going to pull back towards the front of the car until we can get the entire muffler assembly to come out. You just want to watch those hangers. They're on the back. And again, it probably would help to have an extra set of hands because it is rather large and heavy. So we'll set this aside where it won't get damaged. Now that we have the muffler assembly out of the way, you can see we have plenty of room to work under here. Now we're over here on the driver's side frame rail. Now you may have this wire attached using some clips on the frame. We need to move this out of the way because our hitch is actually going to sit directly against the frame and we don't want to crush those wires. So I'm going to take a trim panel tool, use a flathead screwdriver or whatever you have, and you just want to pop those clips out of the frame. Do the one on the bottom, the one on the side, and then we're going to have another one that's going to be towards the outside of the frame right here. We'll take that out, and for now I'm just going to move it out of the way so it won't interfere with our hitch. Just going to push it towards the back. Just move it out of the way for now. Now if we look at the edge of our frame rail, again we're on the driver's side and this is the outside of the frame rail. We have this seam tape. Now a lot of times this seam tape can interfere with the hitch, so we just need to scrape some of it off so it's going to be nice and flush with the frame. Now we don't need to take any more off, just on the outside of the frame. So I'm going to be using a putty knife. You can use a knife, a scraper, pretty much anything you can get in there just to take some of that sealer off. And once you scrape one side, we're going to go over to the other side and do the same thing. Now that we have that removed, we're going to grab one of our pull wires and we'll find a large square hole and an oval hole. We're going to take the coiled end and I'm going to put a slight bend in it. I'm going to feed it into the oval hole. I'm going to go towards the square hole opening, and the main goal here is to have it come out. Now I'm going to put another bend in it to make sure that my wire is coming out of both ends and that it doesn't fall all the way through the frame. We'll grab one of our square hole spacer blocks. I'm going to feed it over the wire, push it into the frame, and we'll grab our carriage bolt. We'll thread it onto the end of the wire, push it in the frame, and we're going to pull on our pull wire until the bolt drops down through. Now we have a hole on the side of the frame that's going to be closest to the back, right about here, but on the outside of the frame. We want to repeat that process, feeding our coiled end in, putting our hardware in place, and having it come out through the outside of the frame. I do suggest you leave your pull wires on until after we get the hitch in place. So now that we have our two fasteners towards the back end, we're going to get our third fastener in. And our third fastener is going to actually use the same hole we used to get our hardware in place. It's going to be a little bit different process. We'll take our spacer block and our coiled end, slide it over, and we'll take our carriage bolt, we're going to thread it in place. And we're going to push our bolt in first, followed by the block, and then we'll pull down and let the bolt drop through the spacer block. Now that we have all three in on this side, we're going to repeat the same process on the other side in the exact same mounting locations. Now as the next set of hands, we're going to lift our hitch up. We're going to feed our pull wires from the top down. We're going to make sure you grab the correct ones. They're going through the right holes. And for that bolt that's on the side, that's going to be going through the side of our hitch, I'm going to go ahead and push it into the frame just a bit so that it can clear when I lift it up. We'll lift our hitch up. And once you have all your bolts going through your hitch, we can remove our pull wire. We're going to grab one of the flange nuts from our kit. And you want to get it at least loosely secured on one bolt. That way the hitch will support itself. We don't have to worry about it falling. But each one of our bolts are going to take one of these flange nuts. I'm going to come back with a 3/4 inch socket and I'm going to tighten up all my flange nuts. I'm going to come back with that same 3/4 inch socket and a torque wrench, and I'm going to torque all my hardware down to the specified amount in the instructions. You want to make sure you go back and repeat that for all your remaining hardware. Now with an extra set of hands, we're going to lift our exhaust back up, kind of angle it down so we can clear the hangers, and then we'll push the tailpipes into the exhaust tips so we can get it back far enough so we can get our two pipes to line up. And then we can slide our muffler back into position and tighten up that clamp. Now before you tighten up that nut on the clamp, you want to make sure that that pipe is all the way seated onto the other pipe. There's actually a little dimple here that's sticking out that'll stop it, so you want to make sure that pipe's pushed up all the way against it. We'll grab our socket, we'll tighten up the nut on top. Then we can replace those 4 screws that are on our exhaust hangers. And finally, we can remove the exhaust strap from earlier, and that'll finish up your installation and your look at the CURT Class 3 custom fit trailer hitch receiver on our 2019 Jeep Cherokee.